Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Sabbath at Midnight for episode 21, I believe. And today we have a very special guest on a topic that I've really been wanting to cover. His name is Chris Taylor. He has a beautiful testimony on his YouTube channel called Don't Let Them Burn. And tonight's subject at hand that I think that we should be talking about is the addiction and the consequences and the outcomes and the evil that follows along with pornography. And I personally wanted Chris Taylor to be on this show and talk about it because he has, in my opinion, a lot of good information and a very well, expertise in this kind of stuff. So without further ado, Chris, go ahead and talk, introduce yourself, tell us where you can find, your YouTube channel, your books and all that good stuff.
Hey, Chris Taylor here from Don't Let Them Burn. You can find me on don'tletthemburn.com. And as you said, my YouTube channel, same name. You can find me all over the place. The same name, Don't Let Them Burn on Twitter. If you want resources and daily news updates, you go to my Telegram channel. And, there's a whole bunch of stuff that we talk about. We have 12 different sections. We have entertainment, Hollywood, video games, politics, genetics, technology, nice. And more, right? So one of the most important aspects of my ministry is Bible prophecy and bringing all these subjects back to the Word of God. Where did it all start? Where is it going? And all the different things.
Yeah, you cover all the subjects. I love it.
Yeah, I try.
So with that being said, I'm just gonna speak, right out. I'm definitely a victim of that world of, the addiction of what comes with pornography. And I've been down the rabbit hole before. And I think it affects mostly men, but I think nowadays a lot more women are watching it too. And it's just, I think it's ruining people's relationships, how they see their partners, et cetera, and stuff like that.
Right. Well, let's start from the beginning. The beginning is God's intent for mankind, God's intent for the earth, the environment, everything, right? We had an alien invasion by a being called Lucifer or the Nakash. Today we call him Satan or the dragon, and like in the book of Revelation. And what did he do? He had this political scheme that he started in heaven. He got punished for it. He came down, hey, look at this, mankind. Let me try to corrupt them. They're a special creation by God. I mean, he's a special creation too, or they, the angels, the cherubims and all that, right? But mankind is just another thing and a good thing. And so he decided to bring his poison to these newly created beings. We don't know how many days, how many weeks. We just know it happened. And they didn't know they were naked or anything like that. They didn't know about sex, even though they had the tools, right?
Yeah.
And Satan approached Eve and told her to break the barrier that God told her not to break, pretty much the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, right?
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to eat from the tree of life forever, but it chose the wrong thing. God gave them one rule, and she was deceived by Satan. Then she took the fruit, and went to her husband after she bit it, and her eyes were open. And then all of a sudden now his eyes are open. And when God approaches them, Adam deflects. He's, instead of taking blame, he points to the feminist. This is the original.
Yeah, sounds familiar.
Right. And this is where the fall of man started. And so every intent that was perfect is now cursed, right? They have a theory out there, and I don't believe this, that Satan had sex with Eve. I don't believe that at all.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those theories out there.
Yeah. But here we go. They didn't know they were naked, and now they know. They cover themselves up with the leaves, and God provided for them anyway. We could say he sacrificed. He had a sacrifice because he had to put animal skin on them, Yeah. And so there we are. Now, here's the kicker. Remember I said that they could have eaten from the tree of knowledge. The tree of life forever. If you go back and read in Genesis, I believe it's in chapter 4, if not chapter 3. Okay. God kicked them out and put the angel there with flaming swords, so they could not eat from the tree of life and live in sin forever. All right. So now we're in the fall of man, and we have the history that the world has gone through, and Jesus came to sacrifice, die on the cross, resurrect, right? But from all that time back then, Satan and his minions have been perverting everything that God put on earth that was perfect. That includes sex. Yeah. That includes nakedness. Everything. And what do we have today? It didn't start today, of course. I mean, pornography has been around since the dawn of man, you know, whether it's paintings on a wall or something else, you know. We had Sodom and Gomorrah and the 5 surrounding cities where that city was judged. Those cities were judged. And the 2 angels went in to get Lot, because Lot and his family, they were the only righteous people there. And they bought out the men, the women, and the children to come and have relations with these angels. I mean, whether they knew they were angels or not, I don't know, but
like really quick, I'm sorry, but like if all like they all knew they were, I mean, they had to look different, right? If they all were attracted to these 2 angels, right? I mean, they would have to look different from everybody else if they were all attracted to them.
Oh, definitely different from that place. I mean, just think of anywhere you see decadence, and it's always like these weird face makeups, idols everywhere and whatnot. So yeah, I would say, yeah, they look different. Now we don't know what they really look like, but yeah, I would say they look different.
Yeah, I just always thought that was very interesting how everybody noticed them right away.
Yeah, and it's not only that. Lot offered his virgin daughters.
I remember that. That's right.
They said, no, we don't want them.
they want the dudes.
You want that over there. That's fresh meat, right?
Yeah. That's wild. So, I never thought about it that way.
Right. And God then judged the place. He didn't need nukes. He didn't need anything. Fire in that sulfur fire and all that stuff rained down from heaven. And the place was decimated. And you know, historically now, they found out it happened just like the Bible said. Exactly like it is. So they found a place. So you want to look that up. So anyway, we have that part in scripture where usually people say it's homosexuality, sodomy. It is, but it's more than that.
Yeah.
Way more than that.
I believe there was bestiality going on, you know, incest, you know, pedophilia, all that was going on, right? I mean, in my opinion.
I mean, think about this. Here's a nugget. Tel Aviv is the largest homosexual destination on the planet.
And that's in Israel. Wow.
Yes. And God hasn't judged it yet. Right? And that judgment is coming. My point is, these things have happened over and over and over again, but God made a statement back then in Sodom and Gomorrah. And there's more to that story, you know, when you go into theology. But you know, some people say God should judge America because we're getting so decadent, right? But just imagine, we're not even there yet where Sodom and Gomorrah was. We're not there yet.
No.
That
sounds, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and then you had only Lot and his family. Lot, his wife, and I think he had 2 daughters, right?
Yeah.
Those were the only righteous people in there.
The only ones.
In Sodom and Gomorrah and the 5 surrounding cities.
It's insane.
All right. So now you get an idea of the perversion that was there. And then you have other symbology or whatever, or stories in the Bible about perversion, sexual perversion. You have idol worship. You have bestiality. You have all sorts of stuff. And then when you get to the New Testament, one of the biggest things that the Apostle Paul and others pointed out is sexual sin. Not just sex before marriage, but other sins too. This one guy, he was saved, but he was sleeping with his father's wife.
Oh.
Right? And Paul said that's not even found amongst the heathens. And they were doing this well, not they, but you know, the guy and the woman in the church of Corinth. right?
Yeah.
And then Paul says that, you know, you're tolerating this thing, and what you need to do, you should have, you know, ostracized them and whatnot. But he says that he will see heaven, but his body will get turned over to Satan. So there's consequences to these sexual sins. And so as Christians now, which is one of the biggest problems, because the world is going to do what the world's going to do. They're going to watch porn. They're going to do this. They're going to do that. They're going to, whatever it is. And you have moral people, which people call good people, but there's no good people. But, you know, I call them moral people. They're not really trying to hurt anybody, kill anybody, you know, that sort of thing, but still sinful. Then you have the other ones that we would call reprobates. And they go for anything under the sun.
Yeah.
It could be murder, whatever it is, whatever the sin is, right? And so once you become a Christian, God sanctifies you over time. And so all these things that you used to do, most of them stop immediately. And then there's some impurities that God works out of you, right? As time goes by. For the rest of your life, you're going to be getting sanctified, right?
Yeah.
And so what we see today is in the Christian church, I'll call it the born again, Bible believing Christians. Okay. We have a problem of pornography coming up in our lives. And of course, I was a victim, and my story is it's longer than I put in my testimony, because
I heard it. Yeah, brother, I heard it. It's wild.
Yeah. You know, child molestation, getting shown porn by family members. It wasn't a movie; it was a Playboy magazine.
Okay.
These little things over time affected me, and then we had the music industry. What I was more addicted to was R&B and hip hop. And for those that don't know, hip hop is not the music. Hip hop is the culture. Rap is the music. Rap is a portion of hip hop. But anyway, I digress. As time moved on, the rap industry became so sexual. That was in my mind because I didn't grow up with a father. And the culture of hip hop, they weren't always into the drugs or whatnot, but there was definitely the sex thing. And then when you get to Two Live Crew, it got even worse. And I would listen to that stuff. And then what is it forming in my mind? It's forming an idea about women, objectifying women.
Absolutely.
Right? And that's what pornography does too. And it's not just pornography and the music. The music it's got even worse since I was listening to music, but it was bad then too, you know, but it's gotten worse
It's really bad right now. Oh my gosh.
I would say it's more of it now. That's what I mean by worse. It's just more now. It's more of what was available now versus then. Right. And so it's also movies, you know, whether it was King Arthur was a big movie I used to watch because my mother would be at work a lot. Right. Yeah. And I would get to sit and watch cable TV, and I'm watching King Arthur, and the movie's actually called Excalibur, from the Arthurian legend. And so I would watch that a lot, and there was nudity in it, you know. Yeah. And it wasn't like, you know, it was technically X-rated, but not really. It's more like a rated R. And you know, I'd watch that and a few other movies that had these images. The only thing that kind of stopped me from objectifying women to the worst is that I was churched a little bit when I was younger. And so that sort of upbringing, I wasn't saved, I was just churched. That sort of upbringing kind of helped. And then I watched, there was a balance to what I watched too. It wasn't all horror and fantasy or whatnot. There were decent movies that, you know, you'd see romance and true love the way it should be and all that stuff, right? So that kind of brought a balance. And I never wanted to really disrespect women and stuff like that. But culturally now, this is around late 80s, early 90s. You know, you try to date women or whatnot, or high school girls. They didn't want to really get respected. They didn't want chivalry and all this stuff. They wanted to get, you know,
Oh, I know exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Don't call me this, don't call me that. But once Juvenile back that up comes on, they're right there, just right with the song. You know what I mean? It's one or the other.
Yeah. So the culture pretty much gave the atmosphere for this stuff, and there was always a way out. But we're just like kind of laying some grounds here to see to let the listeners know how some of this stuff happened. At least in my life, life could have been a little different. But we're going backward. It's about perversion of God's original intent. So back to the garden, when God created Adam and Eve, right? He said that Eve was for Adam, right?
Yeah.
So they were male and female, husband and wife. That's the first marriage institution, right?
Amen.
And it's in there for anybody want to look. It's in there, right?
Male and female. Hey, I know where you're going with that. There's a male and female, not any other way.
Yeah, so the institution of marriage was created by God, and He honors it throughout pagan cultures. Well, what do you see? A pattern of male and female, even if a lot of them are not saved, but God honors that because they're honoring His original intent.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And so we get this perversion now of polygamy and all these other things. I keep saying perversion because that's what Satan does. We call him the great counterfeiter, but I like to call him the great perverter. Yeah. Right? No, he does counterfeit, but he perverts everything that God intended to be good. Right? And so the whole world is the whole of creation is under this curse. And so if we weren't brought up by parents that were not necessarily even Christian, just very moral and traditional to what God's intent was, then we don't have a structure around us, a father or whatever it is, family members that are not trying to take you into their sin, then you turn out better. You have a better standard for your life, standard for the partner that you want, and all these things, right?
Yeah.
And back in the late 80s, early 90s, some people want to go to the VHS store, and you have the curtains in the back. You know where that is.
Oh, I can't believe you just said that. That's old school. I remember going to Video Depot, Blockbuster. There was a little room with the curtains I was never old enough to be in. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I forgot about that, man.
And we never go back there. We go close to it, but we never go back there because we knew our conscience told us don't do it. Right?
It's almost like there's a monster back there. I remember as a kid, I was scared to go behind those curtains. I don't know why. I felt like I was gonna get in trouble or something. Well, I would have got in trouble.
Yeah. Then when you go into the gas station, you have these magazines that you can't really see, but it's something in there.
Yeah, they have the little cut. Oh man, you're bringing back memories. I forgot about all that, man.
Yeah. So, the world is at war with God, right?
Yes.
A lot of them don't know it. Some of them do, but a lot of them don't know it. And so the world is going to produce material that's anti-God, right? The world wants to do what it wants to do. It's me, myself, and I on the throne. It's the image or the personality of Satan, because he is me, myself, and I. He wants to be God. And he wants you to think that you're God. So he blinds the mind of the world, right? And so what happened with America is over time we went from a lot of morality to immorality. And the whole idea of porn, like I said earlier, it goes back generations after generations after generations. Paintings on walls, books that were produced. I was looking at a book the other day on drawing because, I'm an artist, and I didn't really know what was in the book. So I got to a couple pages in, I was like, whoa, bestiality. I'm like, whoa, this is crazy, right? And these were old books. I mean, and then when you get to like the 17th century, 18th century, we think about like today, liberalism and all that stuff. That was back then too. They had sexual revolutions. They had, and a lot of it was purposeful, meaning there were people in the shadows pushing culture to that extent, right? You had the secret societies that would do their little sexual exploits, put that stuff in books, put some of it out to the public, whatever it is. And then by the time you get to 1920s, the birth of Hollywood, that stuff was there too. Yeah. It was there too. And the 1920s and 30s were a time of decadence. What we see today, how things are getting bad, it happened back then too, but not so massive. Okay? And then, Hollywood was making these, what they used to call them blue movies.
Blue movies? What are
blue movies? It was a code for porn.
Okay.
And that stuff got over into the islands too, where I come from. I'm from Jamaica, and I moved to, migrated to America. And so they would call them blue movies. And I'm pretty sure that was in Europe too. So they were doing those things. You got the snuff films and all these other things that came along with it later on, right? Because I call it the depth of sin. Sin doesn't have a bottom, right? And you relate to what I'm saying to you right now.
Absolutely, there is no. I mean, if you want to go with that analogy, I'm gonna put it in porn. Like when me or whoever used to watch it, I mean, it gets to a point where you start to look up things that you wouldn't even look at. It doesn't end. Like it could be like that with any sin, with drugs. You start with pills, then you're in the street putting a needle in your arm, and then God knows what you would do to get high or watch porn.
Exactly. Yep. And when like a cousin of mine would show me some stuff before I ever got addicted, it was some really bad stuff. Let's just say.
I mean, give as much detail without giving as much detail. We know what you're talking about.
let me use medical terms. Excrement, okay? Excrement, that sort of stuff.
Okay.
And he wanted to show me horses doing things to women, and
oh my God,
no, that's gross, right? And it just shows you how God wants to protect you, because you go into the Old Testament, he warns against bestiality and all these things and put them to death. If you find a woman laying with an animal, put her to death. And God hasn't changed. We're just under grace. Just imagine if we weren't under grace, right? And God is doing that because he wants to save the entire world. Unfortunately, it won't go like that, but he wants to save the entire world. And he warned against bestiality and witchcraft and necromancy and all these things that are sin is sin. So we can't characterize sin like lying versus murdering, homosexuality versus stealing a car. They're all the same to God. But then we have these sins that are abominations, and we could technically call them worse, Yeah. And doing those things was abomination to God, right? And so that tells you how bad it is, because sin is just bad, period. There's no, white lie or soft sin or whatever the people want to use. And so sin has no bottom. And you think about the elites, the global people that want to take over the world, we wonder why would somebody with all that money want to do sex trafficking or whatever they do, or the gross stuff that's on the dark web, right?
Yeah.
Why would you want to do that? Because sin has no depth. And Romans 1 kind of gives you the formula to it. They don't want to worship God. They want to worship trees and the created things instead of the creator. And then he brings it out where that leads to murder, fornication, this, that, and the other, homosexuality and other things, right? And then by the end of Romans 1, it talks about the people that pretty much promote what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you see that today. Like, why would you have a drag queen story hour?
Oh, I was just about to get into that. It's wild what's going on. Drag queen story hour.
Yeah.
They're passing laws now where you can literally bypass your parents as a child and, get your surgery and your hormones. I mean, they're literally giving the power over to the kids to make decisions that they have no idea what they're making.
Right.
That has to be from Lucifer himself. There's no way there's anything good about that. And just a week ago, I saw that all these they're doing this big pride parade at the Disney World in Miami, or sorry, Florida. And I think to myself, how is a bunch of adults, mostly grown men, almost butt naked, dancing around at a kid's place gonna help anybody?
Right.
I mean,
it's never going to make sense because
it doesn't make sense. What do the kids got to do? Why do it at Disneyland? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's demonic manifestations. It's it's all done on purpose because there's an agenda from the global elite. But I don't want to get sidetracked.
I know. I'm sorry. It just blows my mind.
and a lot of these drag queen
they're convicted. Most of them are pedophiles.
It's convicted pedophiles. Yeah. I mean, a high percentage, if not all. Okay. Now, so you're talking about the kids, and like I said, child molestation. A lot of homosexuals that I've heard all say they've been molested as a child.
And there's actually a documentary that I want to shoot out there. I'll probably put it on the link and I'll send to you. There's a documentary that I had seen that was made out here in Palm Springs where I live. It's about, 8, 9 years old. And I used to work at a gym in Palm Springs, and I saw about 4 or 5 people that were members in there in this video. And in the beginning, because he went to a nightclub, right? He went to a nightclub, and in the beginning, this guy, whoever he was that was, asking questions, he would ask him, it was around 9 o'clock at night, hey, he would ask him, why are you homosexual? Did anything happen to you as a kid? And they would, F off, get away from me, right? But around 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, when he asked the same people again after they have a little bit of drinks in them, every single one of them either broke down crying and told their story how they were molested, or they got really pissed off and they wanted to kill the person that molested them.
Right, exactly. And that's what happened to me, but I didn't become a homosexual, so that's not always the outcome.
Yeah, that's always exactly. I tell people that's not the outcome for everything. I mean, I know people that have been through stuff that I've been through, and now they're in the streets as bums. Well, I'm not that weak. I'm not going to go that route.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why sin has to be understood. But for people to understand sin, they have to get saved, right? Yep. Because what the professors and people call sin is the human condition. Yeah. But they don't want you to know God, so they don't explain it from the Bible. Because sin is the human condition. We are depraved. Okay? We are born evil. No one wants to say that, but that's the truth. We are born evil because, again, just like sin, people want to take evil into categories, right? Oh, I'm not as bad as Hitler, but you have the same capacity to do what he did. Oh, I'm not a serial killer, but you have the same capacity to do what he did. Yep. And a lot of serial killers, guess what they watched? Pornography. They said that
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes, and not just him, the other one too. I can't remember his name right now. One of the big ones, and they said that is what led them to do that.
Charles Manson.
Right. Yeah. So there's a connection there, and it all stems from what? Sin. Yeah. Sin hurts. Sin kills. Sin destroys, and we can't get around that. So, like before, this is why I didn't just jump into, the pornography. I had to give you that background and some of the issues going on in our world, because sometimes a lot of people leave that out, or they don't know Christ, so they don't understand that part of it. Right? Absolutely. Here's another nugget. The porn practitioners. Let me say it like this. The guy that made Playboy. What's his name again?
Hugh Hefner.
Hugh Hefner, he was a disciple of Alastair Crowley.
No way. Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And the guy that made Hustler.
George Bush's great-great-grandfather, Alastair Crowley. That guy.
Well, I don't know if he's George Bush's grandfather, but
I have a little connection, but we'll talk about that later.
I mean, I got some books on it. I just haven't read all the books yet, so I just don't know.
Yeah.
But if he is, then oh well. But the guy that started Hustler was also a disciple of Alastair Crowley. For those of you that don't know who Alastair Crowley is, he was around the 1930s, 1940s, early part, whatever, and they called him the Beast. He thought that he was gonna be the Antichrist, and he wanted something called the Red, what's it called, the Red Woman or something like that.
Something like that. And don't forget,
Scarlet Woman.
Yes, and let's not forget that he coincidentally, supposedly summoned that Roswell crash because he was doing a ritual the night before. Remember, he summoned that little alien thing, Iwaza or something like that.
Iwas.
There you go. Yep.
Yeah. And that this right here could take us into so many different rabbit holes. I'm gonna try.
No, man.
Try to keep it right. Yeah. And so Alastair Crowley had sex with men, women, and children. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he might have gotten a sense of bestiality too. He ate his own fecal matter, and on and on and on.
Lord have mercy.
He is the biggest influence through Satan on our culture, our modern culture. He is the biggest influence.
And he was also kicked out of Italy for what I heard, molesting so many kids. They called him the most wicked man of Italy. You remember that? He was banned from Italy. Let's not forget that. This man was literally trying to be the devil.
Yeah, and he had money, but he was broke and impotent by the time he died.
Yeah. Coincidentally.
So and there's more and more and more and more and more to talk about with Alastair Crowley. So much more. But he was an influence on some of the superhero stuff, but we're not going to go there right now. And so anyway, the person, Mr. Kinsey, that started our educational system in America, and I know people are asking, what does this have to do with pornography? You'll see. He started the sexual education system in America. Britain teaches about this stuff, like Europe teaches about this. America hides it. He was a pedophile that used children to do its experiments to write our program.
Wow.
Okay? And he was a disciple of Alastair Crowley.
Wow.
Right?
That guy gets around to a lot of people.
A lot of people influence, even today. Jay-Z's influenced by him.
Oh yeah, he always does the hand signals and all that stuff. I can't stand Jay-Z, but anyway.
And it's not just the hand signal. He wore the shirt that says "Do what thou wilt."
Do what thou wilt. Yep, and he has an album cover too, I believe.
Right. Yeah. So, for people that don't know, "Do what thou wilt" is the first law of Satanism, and it basically means do what you want.
Do what makes you happy, whether it's right or wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And so some people would say, I don't worship Satan, but they've been duped by the people that they're following, because they think it's just do what you want, and it has nothing to do with the Satan and da-da-da-da-da. Anyway, so we said that the 1920s had pornography, and before that, but the 1920s, it was the first time that I believe it was the first time that it was put on film, right? Yeah. And so by the time of the 60s, we had the quote-unquote sexual revolution, and we had Crowley followers then and all that stuff. And, back in the 50s, the worst thing you could do in school was chew bubblegum or cigarette. Man,
how the times have changed.
Yeah, and so when the whole sexual revolution happened, all this free sex and whatever, they were trying to break the bonds of what God put in place. So they wanted to get rid of the Judeo-Christian system, the family system, right? And crime, premarital sex, pregnancy out of wedlock, divorce rates went up like a hockey stick because you took God out of school. You took prayer out of school. You took the Bible out of school. These things have ramifications. They have consequences. And people just can't figure it out. Why is our world going like this? Because we put God on the back burner or try to get rid of him altogether. Yeah. Right?
Absolutely.
And so let me just give a little bit about the church. Every institution has people that are fake, people that can't control themselves, right? But the biggest one is the Catholic Church, but we're not Catholics. That's not Christianity. That's a cult, right? Yes. And so what you find in Catholicism is a ton of I don't mean to laugh about it, but a ton of child abuse, sexual abuse, homosexuality, all these different perversions. Okay, for men and women.
Absolutely.
Right? And so we didn't have a lot of that in the early church. There were instances. I'm not talking about the church in the beginning. I'm talking about in America here in the 50s, 60s, 70s. And so as time went by, it started to get worse. But from the 1930s, the church started getting infiltrated with Marxism.
Yeah.
And from that time and then up to World War II, the Frankfurt School came over here and they started infiltrating they got kicked out by the Nazis and they started getting into the colleges here. And now we have what we have today. And they're not the only culprits, but it's a big machine.
Yeah.
And so I'm telling you all that because Marxism, which is Satanism, because Karl Marx was a Satanist, and it goes all the way back to Plato. He didn't invent it, right?
Yeah.
It produces a culture of decadence, a culture of do what thou wilt, a culture of destroy the family, a culture of you will become slaves, but you just don't know it yet, right? And so these little nuggets right here will get you to understand where we're going to go with all this, right?
Yeah.
Paganism. And anytime you find a cult, false religion outside of God, you're going to have a lot of sex. You're going to have a lot of abuse.
Yeah.
Not from everybody, but it's there, you know? And you just have to do the research. You go to Jehovah's Witness, you go back to the Mayans, you just go all over the place. You'll find sexual abuse, right?
Yeah.
So there's something about sex. The Bible calls it a mystery. Like when a man and a woman comes together, it's like a mystery. We don't really know what happens. Why do a man and a woman two become one? We get tied together.
Yeah.
You know, and we have this free sex society. Thank God it's not all of us, but I'll use the term soul tie, but I don't mean what everybody else means. You know,
Yeah.
You heard a song, I think it was called "Suicidal."
I have an idea of what they are.
Suicidal. Remember that?
Oh, I'm so suicidal. Is that Sean Kingston?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
And what was that song about? It was about a guy that had sex with a woman and now he feels suicidal because he has a soul tie.
Yeah. Yeah. Coincidentally, where you're from, Jamaica, Sean Kingston.
I know, right? And so we okay, again, the original intent is a man and a woman married. Sex is made for the institution of marriage, not for anything else. It's for procreation first, but while you're procreating, you get to have a little fun. Yeah. And to know this one person, not 5 or 10 or 2, this one person for life. And your brain, scientifically, is conditioned to this one person. And when you're watching pornography, you get conditioned to how many people in the room here, and sometimes including the men, you know?
Yeah.
You get conditioned to that, and your brain forms, I think they call it a groove. It's where the memory is formed and the conditioning in your mind is formed. And so that's why, and you get the dopamine hit from the action.
Yeah.
And so our mind always wants something new. That's why we get bored.
Mm-hmm.
And so as you keep going down this road, masturbating, having thoughts after the masturbation, some people do it 2, 3, 5 times a night or whatever, daytime, your brain, your body, your spirit is getting conditioned to this thing. And that's why you want to go deeper. You can't look at pictures anymore. I need video. Oh, video's boring. I watched that before. I don't want to watch. I need something new. When you're solidified in a relationship under what God intended, even if it's outside of marriage, you know, you're gonna have flashbacks of that intimate act.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
It doesn't even have to be you're thinking about sex. You could be with your partner and they said something cute to you or whatever it is, and that thought will come up because that was a portion of your life that you spent with them, and it matches whatever's going on at that moment, right?
Yes.
And so you'll people are going into deeper and deeper levels of filth. And the problem is some people think they can control it, right? And when I had it wasn't years and years and years of porn addiction, it was off and on for me. And there were times when, I felt like something was in the room,
Yeah, I know.
I know I wasn't possessed because I had already turned my life over to Christ. I just had this issue. And like I said in my testimony, I couldn't break it myself. So I prayed to God. And it was a wholehearted prayer. It wasn't a prayer like, oh, I'm sorry. Just like when, a person drinks alcohol and they're like, oh, I feel so bad. I threw up. I'm sorry. I don't want to ever do this again. And next week they're out doing it, right?
Yes, sir.
It wasn't that kind of half-hearted prayer. It was total surrender. And it just went away.
Wow.
I'm not saying I quit cold turkey. That's because that would be on me. I would be the one with the power right there.
Yeah, I would definitely feel guilty when I was trying to quit and I would, give in. I just feel so disgusted with myself after I realized what I just did. Like, it really got to a point where I cannot do this no more.
Exactly, because we're doing it under our own power. So when you surrender to Christ, it's different. It's like your week goes by, 2-3 weeks, you didn't forget that stuff happened, but you're like, wait a minute, I used to be back at this every night or every 2 days or every week, whatever it is, right? And so he broke that off of me. But there's so many different ways that that came into my life. I mean, back in the day, this was in the mid 80s somewhere, and I had no idea this was going to happen. My cousin takes me upstairs to the father's room or his parents' room, and brings out this movie. I'm not going to say what the movie was, but there was a popular song at the time that they took the title of this song. I'm writing that in my book, but I'm not going to say it now. And I was like, oh, it's like the song,
Yeah.
He showed me, and it was naked women. And then he put the tape in, and we watched it or whatever. And there was no masturbation or anything like that going on, but it never left my mind.
Yeah.
Because it's trauma. It's trauma to the mind. It's like an MK Ultra experiment, right? Yeah. In the occult, when it comes to these women, they call breeders. They abuse them first to get them under control.
Like the oracles, whatever you call them?
They're made to have babies.
Okay.
And so it's like an MK Ultra, but it's not called that. It's satanic ritual abuse.
Yes.
Right? And they'll do things, abuse these women to get them under control because they need a trauma to their system. Right? Yeah. And sometimes that'll also get them into an altered state of consciousness where a demon can come in. Right? I'll give you an instance that I know most people aren't thinking about. You ever seen a superhero movie?
Which one?
And not all superhero movies, but it's in most, where the person that's supposed to manifest this occult power, whatever it is, shooting fire from their hand or whatever, they have to go through a traumatic event.
Oh yeah, I mean that's even in anime. I used to watch a lot of anime, and whenever they get these powers, they have to die first and come back, or they have to go through this super hardcore, get jumped by 20 guys close to your death.
Trauma brings out the demonic power.
Yeah,
I put it like that so people won't think the other way, because everybody's thinking superhero powers or these are demonic powers, and that we can do that in another show explaining what I mean by that.
Absolutely, we're having another show.
So the reason I'm telling you is that trauma, it does something to you psychologically, and there's something where in these occult things it's called a split. They give you a split personality.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Not the one that comes through with a demon, something that's created.
Yeah.
Right? And that's all in satanic ritual abuse. But you see the correlations between each. So when a child gets abused, they don't know what just happened. They can't tell if it's right or wrong. They might feel wrong, but they don't know because they don't know. They're children. They're growing. This hasn't been explained to them. And then this person probably even, coerced them into it or whatever the thing is. And so it's trauma. And so that stuff will disappear and it starts coming back as they get older. Starts coming back. In fact, with me, before I did my testimony on video, God brought the memories back. And I was like, why is this happening? Why are you bringing this back? Why are you allowing this to happen? And it was so I could forgive the people that did what they did to me.
Man, it's got to be hard, man.
Yeah, but I mean, as you grow in Christ, you will be able to forgive the worst thing that ever happened to you. Just imagine, I'm supposed to be a Christian. I'm supposed to forgive, just like Jesus does to us when we mess up. Doesn't matter if it's small or big, right? Our sins through Jesus Christ are obliterated. Literally, when you go into the Greek, it's obliterated. He's not going to remember the sins from the past, the present, and the future, right? Doesn't mean go sin up a storm. That's just his love for you. That's his grace. And so if I'm under that, I have to reflect what Christ has done to me. And over time, you get sanctified to do those things that he gives you the power to do. And forgiveness is one of them. I have many traumas in my life where I could have probably killed somebody or whatever it is, retaliate. But over time, God took all those things away, and that involves getting into your Bible, being under good spiritual leadership, so that you are learning the heart of God so that you can get to that point, because everyone knows forgiveness is not easy.
It's absolutely not.
Or we'll say, I can forgive, but I can't forget.
Oh, yeah, I hear that all the time. My ex-girlfriends.
I mean, it's a half truth.
Yeah, it's true, though. It is true. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen to me that I forgive, but I will never forget. It's impossible to forget.
Yeah, well, I think the point is that once we forgive, we don't bring it up again.
Yeah.
Don't keep bringing that thing up because you said you forgave the person, Yeah. But anyway, as we backtrack, I'm just saying I had to forgive those people. I couldn't do my testimony without it. And you've seen it, so you know exactly what I said. And so, again, different things led me down the path. And it was somewhat sporadic. And I call it staggered, right? There was another point where out of the blue, somebody we're older now, we're in our 20s, and somebody brings a blue movie into the house and decided they want to watch it. And I have the two most annoying Christians I knew at that time in the same room. And we all watched it.
Man. You guys are watching the movie.
So there's a hypocrisy among Christians, Yeah. That
I'm one of them. I used to be.
It's like we don't have the influence around us. God is there. We have our Bibles. We don't read it. And so somebody brings it in. It's like you're afraid to say no. And that's why a lot of people get into trouble. They don't know how to say no.
Yeah, they want to fit in, or they don't want to be looked at as, oh, you're a little,
Yeah, that herd mentality. Yeah. But why do I remember that day? There's a lot of stuff I've forgotten. Okay, yeah. Why do I remember that day? Because it was
traumatizing.
Yeah. And so again, the music was a big thing. As over time you saw the music videos getting raunchier.
Oh yeah, I mean the strippers and all the videos, bouncing their butt everywhere. The guys are talking about the most vulgar things. I mean, even the women rappers. Oh my, Cardi B and what's that other one? My Lord, I cannot listen. Her voice alone.
Lil' Kim, Trina from Miami.
Oh yeah, back in the day, Lil' Kim. I mean, I got the magic stick. I mean, come on.
All that stuff, right?
Yeah.
And even before them.
What's that song? My Neck, My Back. I mean, that song was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah. Late 90s, early 30s. I'm sorry, early thousands.
Yeah. That's like a horrible song. That My Neck, My Back song. It's a terrible song. I hate that song. I felt awkward when people used to put it on. I felt awkward in the car. Like, there's a bunch of dudes in the car. Even if there's girls in the car, it's like, I'm not thinking about that right now. You know what I mean?
And your conscience is also weighing on you.
Yeah, absolutely.
God gave us a conscience for a reason, you know?
Yeah.
And it's fine tuned to deflect sin, you know?
Yeah.
And so before there was what's his name? Oh my gosh. There was a Jamaican rapper.
Kingston.
No. This is way before that. This is early 90s, man.
I don't know.
I know it's right at the tip of my tongue. But he was popular at the time, and he had a video where it was this girl's butt just bouncing up and down on MTV. On BET.
I mean, that's on Juvenile back that, you know what up was had a lot of that in there. Talking about that one.
Yeah. What I'm trying to show you here is this is before all those people.
Yeah.
And when MTV is one of the reasons why our culture got decadent. The spring break parties they would show and half naked women and, you know, all these, the hookup culture kind of began with MTV.
Oh yeah. The dating shows, you know, next, who's next? Next. Yep.
Yeah. So most of the stuff I'm talking about right now is late 80s, early 90s when the stuff started to kind of grow. And MTV showed their satanic influence. But the culture kept going along with this stuff, you know? But as we got into, I'm still trying to remember this guy's name, by the way.
No, it's all, no, I hate when that happens, man.
As we got into the late 90s, early 2000s, pornography got more easy to access. I didn't get on the internet until 1998.
Yeah, that's about the time I started using it.
I heard internet. I didn't know what it was. I didn't care. Was living my life. And then one of my brothers went to college and came back with a Mac computer. And then I was like, what are you doing? Oh, this is the internet. And I was like, what? And then a friend came over that I met on the internet. And he introduced me to AOL. And I said, you could talk to people from all over the world?
Yeah. I used to get into trouble on that thing, man. I mean, some of the conversations that will pop up in those, because remember when they used to have that AOL, Yahoo, you go into these chat rooms and there'll be subjects there, you know, hookup chat room, you know, this right. And man, and as a kid, I mean, you know, not a kid, I was like maybe in my early teens, you know, the first thing you want to do is like, well, what's that?
Yeah.
And no one knows who you are. You can make any name you want and you can live a little fantasy in those little chat rooms.
Right. And at that time, I didn't know about any of that, what you're talking about. I was in my late 20s, ignorant of the internet, but I, around 2000, I started getting on there because I'd moved out from where I was living, separated from baby mama, right?
Yeah.
And I just started, you know, going around on AOL or wherever, Excite.com, whatever, and just talking to people, you know, didn't know who I would meet or whatever. And there were some nice people. Some were just way too young, and I just skipped them, you know. There was a place called Black Planet. It's still around, but I don't even go on there anymore. You had MySpace and all this stuff, right?
Yeah.
You know, that stuff didn't get me into pornography. It just had me have interesting conversations. And I would go and write raps online and all this stuff. I was rapping since I was in high school. And it just became a time where your mind, you're lonely. The devil wants you to be alone.
Yeah.
That way, he's not putting a chink in your armor. He's putting the sword between the plates of the armor that's exposed. That's how he gets you. Loneliness and other factors. And I just started looking. I just found a site, didn't know it existed. And here comes pictures. Boom, 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 boom. Pictures. Okay. They got so bad that I would download these pictures and never look at them again. It's like greed just set in. Boom, boom. Oh, look at this picture. And they had to look a certain way, right? So if the girl's too skinny, I don't want to see that.
Yeah.
Something thicker, you know?
Yeah.
And I would just download. And then I started booking up on the videos. Oh, that's all she wrote. Even though at that point, it wasn't the massive addiction that came later, right? It was, I would say, off and on for a couple weeks, right?
Yeah.
And then part of the hookup culture was you're trying to date, but you don't know yourself. You don't understand some of the trauma that happened in your life. You're kind of you went through women that treated you bad, or you treated them bad, or whatever, and you're trying to see if you can find somebody, but you're not even ready. So that's where I was right there. And you could find people online, and unfortunately, some would they'd want to do something.
Yeah, that was the whole point, bro.
Yeah. And at that time, like I said, it was off and on for a couple of weeks where I would watch this stuff. And what do you want to do? You want to make it reality.
Yeah.
Right. And I've seen videos where this one guy, he was so addicted to porn, he wanted to make it a reality. He was married.
Okay. What do you mean make it a reality?
He wanted to, so he hired a prostitute.
Oh, wow.
But he couldn't do it. He couldn't move forward with it. And so he paid her, but he left her alone. And I can't remember what the outcome was. Well, I do remember. He did confess it to his wife, and he did get off of the pornography. But yeah, so my point is the internet dating hookup culture was there, short-lived in my life around the year 2000. And so as time went on, I was bootlegging on the streets, and I would just sell CDs, and then people are like, do DVDs, man, do DVDs. I'm like, nah, man, I'm fed time and all this stuff, Yeah. And so anyway, later on, a couple years into it, we started making DVDs. But once you start doing DVDs,
you got to start doing porn.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I would every now and then put one in, and whatever.
I bet it sold fast.
Yeah, it was. At that time, I call it HD.
Yeah.
If you watched it now, you'd think, what that's like a potato. It looks like a potato. But at that time, that was HD, and you'd see some, and you're like, I'm not interested in this crap.
Yeah.
Then here comes the type of women you see in music videos. And so it excites your flesh, and here you go.
I know what you mean. I'm a kind of guy that likes a little extra meat on my woman too. So yeah. I know exactly what rap videos you're talking about.
Yeah. And even then, it wasn't a continual addiction. But every time it happened, I happened to be alone.
Yeah.
And I had access to but I wasn't living right. I had access to a lady that I liked, and she liked me. But if she's not available, guess what?
Hey.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I know what you mean.
These are the traps that we set for ourselves. It's us doing it to ourselves, but it leads back to other things. But we don't want to blame the other things, because there is responsibility on the person.
Yeah.
We did this to ourselves, right? And so that was a little off and on thing. And so by around 2006, I fed my mind some more stuff. And I actually came back to Christ in 2004. But the stuff I was dealing with, I was, like I said, I was rapping. I had a rap group, and we were about to get signed by some whoever in California, ready to take us out there, all expenses paid. The NFL, we got in on the NFL, somebody that was pretty up there, and they were trying to hook us up with some shows to videotape.
Nice.
We were around rappers like P. Diddy and remember that song, It's Going Down?
Meet me in the club. It's going that one?
Yeah. Met him. We filmed all this stuff. Wow. And whatever. And Sony PlayStation, because I had a website up, and
That's Young Jock, right?
Yeah, Young Jock.
Yeah.
And then Sony PlayStation was going to advertise through us. They were going to sponsor us.
It really seems like, I'm not even joking, that the devil kind of saw you as like this is the way I think about it. Look,
Mhm.
If you can be a powerful person for God, then you can be a powerful person for the devil.
Oh, for sure.
And I think at that point, because those kind of companies don't reach out to you because God, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So at that point, I think the devil knew that you were a valuable asset to God, and if it can get you, you be a valuable asset to him.
Right. And we all excuse things. I'm hearing rappers like DMX rap about having sex with a horse and sorry, not a horse, a corpse.
Yeah.
And he's just playing. We excuse it all the time. And so, in my mind back then, even though I came back to Christ 2 years earlier, it was kind of like excusing things, and then I would get convictions about certain things or whatever. And so anyway, all those things that we seem as good and successful were coming. They were right at the cusp. Okay. And we had an office on South Beach, and I said to God, can you just take me out of this? Because some of the porn stuff came back, right?
Yeah.
And it was even more HD, okay? And I need to just get out of this whole business. I mean, I was getting super convicted because I even had a internet radio station. I'm playing Snoop Dogg stuff, a whole bunch of raunchy stuff, and the mixtape was super successful. We were getting known upstate New York and in Georgia.
Yeah.
Okay. And God provided a way for me to move out in 24 hours, and I was gone. I dropped the whole business. I had a partner, dropped them too. We just ended it all amicably. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now all I have as a resource to make income is my graphic design, freestyle graphic design. No, sorry, not freestyle, but freelance graphic design. And that's how I made money. And so around that time now, a year or two in, I'm getting introduced to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
I was playing Halo already.
Oh, that's one of my one of my favorites.
Yeah, I was getting Halo and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So those games, even when I was doing the other stuff, I was playing Halo and whatnot. So anyway, that led into like a video game addiction over time. But in the middle of all that, I'm trying to date online again, and I'm meeting people that I don't want to date because all they want to do is sleep with you.
Yeah.
But then your flesh is like, let me just take a peek at this thing.
Yeah, let me just see what it's like a little bit.
Yeah. And then
you get pulled in.
Got you.
Yep.
And it wasn't like every single day, but at the same time, it was very close to where it seemed like every day. And that's where the whole thing really got bad, super bad, that I even felt like there was a demon presence around. And around that time is when I, couple months,
absolutely.
I just had to pray to God, and he got rid of it. Okay. So that's a short thing of my testimony right there. Sort of short, not really, but
no, I mean, it's beautiful. I mean, we could always, we're going to do, plenty more podcasts. We can definitely get into it, but really quick, I really wanted to run something by you, besides God, motivating me, the Lord Jesus Christ, of course, that God, the one and only, besides him motivating me to not do, to not watch these kind of things. Another thing that I put myself in my head is that you are sitting there by yourself in a room, and you are watching, at least what I was watching, another man have sex with another woman. Yeah. I mean, you are literally cuckolding yourself. You are literally making yourself a beta male. It's no different than being in the same room and watching some dude have sex with some girl, and you're right there in the same room getting off on it. I mean, it's kind of degrading yourself. I mean, you're kind of making yourself into a cuck, I would say, like a weak man.
Yeah.
Because I'm not saying this in a good way, but you're not the one getting the action. You're watching some other guy get action, and you're getting off to it.
Right, but
kind of sounds a little,
But see, even with that, the mind is fantasizing that guy's you.
Yeah, I guess some people. Me, I guess I don't really see it that way. I just saw it as another guy having with another girl.
The fantasy, could that be me? Yeah, look at that thing. Wow, wow, wow. I'm an artist, so I'm going to visualize it regardless.
Yeah.
You could start telling me about your tennis shoes and what you wore. I could start visualizing it right now. You know?
That's true. Yeah, every word you say, you start visualizing. Yeah, especially us as men, that's how we get off.
Well, a smart guy said, would you go to your neighbor's house, to their bedroom window, the curtains open, and they're sitting, the husband and wife are sitting there doing what they're doing. Would you pull up a seat and start watching it? The answer is obviously no, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. It's the same thing to me.
That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. Even with these rated R movies, that's what we're doing.
I cannot. It's so weird. Like, for example, I used to, what do you call it? I used to watch, TV shows like True Blood. You heard of that show, True Blood?
Yeah, I never watched it, but I know about it.
It's a plethora of sex scenes in there, and the show was good, right? I mean, it had a good story, it's not a good. When I watched it, it was entertaining. It was entertaining, but the sex scenes were sometimes like 10 minutes long, and you're watching this with your family. It's like, you're looking down, you're looking around, because it's so awkward to be watching this with just even with your girlfriend. It's like, the scene's, why can't the scene just be they walk into the room and close the door? Why do you got to show the whole thing? We know what happens when the door closes. You know what I mean?
Right, exactly. And they do that to destroy you. They want to desensitize you to perversion. And so even after I stopped, these memories and these things are coming up, and your imagination works when you don't want it to work, right?
Yeah.
And it's just, I had to work hard to sensitize my mind now.
Yeah.
Sensitize it. So one of the biggest things I did was turn off cable TV. Why? Because almost every commercial is sexual.
Yeah, and a lot of them now have the same sex in the commercials. Check this out. I just saw a commercial the other day, and I was watching a TV series with my dad, and the commercial came on, and I looked at my dad, and I was like, "Did you just see this commercial?" And basically, the commercial was, I forgot the name of the medication, but basically it's like it's a commercial, and everybody's all happy. Everybody's, at the beach or in the forest holding hands, kind of like a Levitra commercial. You know what I mean? So, yeah. But it's a bunch of couples of gay men, and the advertisement is they're advertising a pill that you don't need to wear a condom for so you don't contract HIV. So basically they're saying, we have a pill that you can take, and if you have a partner or someone who has HIV, guess what? You can have sex with them without a condom and have a higher chance of not getting it. I'm like, we're at the point now where we are advertising medication so men could have sex without a condom on with people they know that have HIV. Are you kidding me? You're putting yourself, it blows my mind, my friend.
Yeah. I mean, you're seeing the same thing. It's just worse now. Seeing the same thing that they've been showing you for years.
Why not wear a condom? Why would you even put yourself in that situation? I mean, can you not control yourself from sex that much that you're willing to take a pill, but still risking to get HIV? Like, are you kidding me?
One of the things I just said, right, had to do with your mind and the influence on your mind. That's why I cut off a lot of the commercials, right? Yeah. So imagine these people. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They just know they want to do it. They're being controlled through spirit and mind by entities they don't even know or believe exist sometimes. Yeah. It's about a psychological, spiritual game that the entities play. And we fall for it most of the time.
Absolutely.
These people, like, you know how women started to smoke cigarettes?
Yeah.
Through a psychological experiment in tobacco commercials. They started showing women smoking on movies and TV shows, and that's why they started smoking.
And it was a cool thing to do, remember?
Yeah, Sigmund Freud's nephew, can't remember his name right now, he made up the program because the tobacco industry asked him to, and that's how they started smoking. So it's this psychological game played through movies and commercials and sometimes books or whatever, that it stirs up your flesh for whatever it is, not just pornography, but there's so many different angles we can go with this thing. But we talked about the other night was anime and manga and hentai. And that's another door right now for younger people to experiment and get dragged into pornography.
Yeah, I think that's actually worse than human pornography, because those drawings have no limit. I mean, they can draw some kind of monstrosity with, 10 body parts and, God knows what else.
Yeah. They do.
Yeah, and I know that's what I'm saying, that there's no limit to that. They can draw whatever they want.
There was a movie I saw. I didn't even realize it was a hentai. I didn't realize when I was watching it years ago, mid-90s somewhere. And I couldn't remember the whole thing. I just knew there was a demon that had sex with people, right?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's a Berserk.
It's like a 4-part series.
Yeah, it's called Berserk. And then in the end, there's like some demon raping some girl and the guy's trying to stop it, right?
Yeah, I hope we're talking about the same movie.
No, it's about like, he's like a knight. He has a sword. He fights with the sword.
No, that's something different.
Oh, I'm talking about Berserk. Well, it's the same thing in Berserk.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to use some of the same themes, but this one was about this person that's supposed to become a god, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, by the end, they're releasing demons upon the world that just have to have sex with women. And this one creature, all he did, because he's gaining his god powers, were to have sex with women. And by the time he arrived, they exploded, Yeah. Just sick stuff.
Yeah, sick.
And I watched that back in the 90s, okay? Because at that time, anime was becoming more prevalent in America through the video stores.
Yeah.
So we were Crying Freeman, Kabuto, Vampire Hunter D, and a bunch of other ones. But I just knew from the inception it was demonic, but we still watched and, whatever. Yeah. But that one was the worst one. Yeah. Something of the Overfiend. Anyway.
Overfiend, okay.
Yeah, so that I recommend no one watches it. It's really bad. And the manga anime hentai is the more XXX rated version of anime and manga. Manga is more like the comic book version. Anime is whatever else, just animation, but has all sort of different themes in it. I'm saying that for the audience because I know you saw this stuff. Yeah. And so when they go from the anime to the manga all the way into the hentai, now they have 3D computer generated sex, whether it's pencil drawn or in a 3D program. And that stuff is all over the place because people now, because of cell phones and tablets, they're passing around. When I say people, I really do mean everybody. I'm like everybody in the sense of whoever is into this stuff, even children. 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, because these parents they don't understand what the time bomb they're giving to their kids, and they're passing around not just anime, manga, hentai, but regular porn as well. I remember I met this one girl. She was too young. She was 20 years old. I was in my 30s online, and she thought it was funny to send me some GIF of male and female part going in and out. I was like, what are you sending me? How could you send me that? And she's laughing. Jeez. It's like, it's dumb. Just dumb. It's not funny.
I've trust me, I've been there where I've dated somebody that she would just send me like these stupid things, like just like things that, like, for example, things I'm not into, like, oh, we should have a threesome. Absolutely not. Why would you even ask me that?
Right.
Not into that. And then she'd joke about it and keep bugging me about it. Oh, it's going to feel good. And I would get so mad. And it would get to the point where, what, are you gay? You don't want 2 girls? Like, are you gay? No. Are you sick in the head? You're my girlfriend. Why would you want that?
Right. And all that peer pressure.
Yeah.
When I was treating women right, they'd call me gay too.
Yeah. Yeah, so you know what I'm talking about. When you're nice, you're gay, and when you're the bad boy, you're just too mean. It's what you can't have both. It's either one or the other.
Yeah. So all this stuff is going on, and then when you bring it past the animation aspect into virtual reality, that's when it's just going to. It is already exploding. In the Eastern countries, China, Taiwan, wherever. And now they've bought into video games, Cyberpunk, that video game.
Oh, I have that game.
you could fix your character up to have two genitals.
I haven't got that far.
a male and female genitals. You could do whatever you want.
I didn't even notice that, man. Because I don't know if you heard about it. The game had a bunch of glitches, so I bought it and never even played it. Just sitting there.
Right, yeah.
I didn't know that.
Thank God it had those glitches because, I mean, and then you have Mass Effect. I think it was Mass Effect 2 or 3.
3.
Anyway, they had the homosexual couples, or since you're playing whatever character, you can now choose if you want to put a man if you're a man, or a woman if you're a woman.
Yeah, there's a lot of games now where you can have you can start a sexual relationship with a man or a woman, like depending on the answers you choose in the conversation.
Yeah. And then also you have people getting addicted to AI apps that are supposed to be supposedly romantic or sexual. And one person killed himself the other day because he fell in love with the app.
I saw that. I think we talked about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, like I said, we can go all over the place with this subject matter. I think we covered some good ground, How much time do we have?
We have, let me see. Let me look at the clock. Hold on, let me go back to my little thing. We got about 9 minutes and 15 seconds.
Okay, all right.
Time. I'll let you know when we're down to the last 2 minutes. We can close out. Go ahead. Keep going.
All right. Yeah, so the virtual reality part, I think people should not ignore. It's already bad.
It is bad. I mean, in China, they have those brothels where it's pure virtual reality sex. And, I'm just going to say this in the most, nicest way that these machines, they come in. I mean, these machines that these guys sit in, and I kind of said the word earlier by accident. They literally have like a little bowl where you finish in, and they, like, how could you even sit in this chair where thousands of men have, filled that little cup up, and someone just goes there and cleans it up? It's disgusting. What is going on?
Well, two points here going on that point. Yeah. When they had the virtual reality conferences that were in America, and they have them every year,
Yeah.
The booth with the biggest line was the porn booth.
I believe it.
And one person came out. They asked him, how was it? He said, whatever I did in there, I wouldn't tell anybody.
Oh my gosh, that's some sick stuff.
Yeah. Right? And then if you look in the book of Revelation, one of the things that God talks about is they will not give up their drug abuse or pharmakia, witchcraft, Yeah. And another one is worship of demons and fornication. Okay? So everyone's looking for pleasure. And we've become a pleasure-driven society. We're at the point where our culture is declining, and right now I'm just talking about America, but Europe is declining as well. Canada is declining as well.
A lot. Even Ireland, and I always thought Ireland always had their stuff together, but now with all the different religions pouring in from the war in Ukraine, they're polluting it with all this paganism, all this.
Right.
On it goes.
And here it is. I asked somebody a question the other day. I said, you want God to judge America, but do you think this is organic? You think we're on this path organically? No. We are being led down.
Being led. Look at the media. It's everything. Like you said, every commercial, every movie has a gay couple, bisexual couple, transsexual. I mean, everything has to. What was I watching? So they made a new Power Rangers movie. And I watched it because, I watched it when I was a kid. I just wanted to check it out. And there's one scene in there that had absolutely no point in the story, right? I mean, it was a Power Rangers movie, but they made it for kids. And I'm going to tell you, there really wasn't anything weird. There's nothing weird in there. They didn't even cuss, nothing. There's no blood, no weird symbolism besides the dinosaurs and the suits, right? But, there was a scene where this girl is, she's the Yellow Ranger. She's going to go, help the other Rangers fight. And then on the way over there's a guy that, his tire's flat or whatever. And he's very flamboyant, I'm like, oh my God, is this going right? I think it is. Sure enough, the guy goes, oh my God, help me. My boyfriend's going to get beat up by putties. And it was like a 10-second scene of her saving a gay couple. And then it was over. Like there was no point of that scene other than to say, hey, we put a gay couple in here. Got you. Next. You know what I mean?
And it's usually that because there is a system in Hollywood where I can't remember the name of the network, they pay these. A lot of people are not writing this stuff. They don't even want it in there, but they're getting paid through this organization to put it in there. That's why it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
They get paid a lot of money because there is an overall agenda to dehumanize us, demoralize us, and two other things that is for the most part working, but working slower than they thought, so they have to ramp it up. And if you notice, all these corporations did this stuff at the same exact time. So that's how you know there's an agenda.
Absolutely. Everyone's doing it. No one's against it.
Yeah, for those that are wondering, who are they? Okay, I'll just give you one name right now. Tavistock Institute. Tavistock. Research Tavistock.
How do you spell that for the listeners?
Tavis. Tavistock. TOCK. Let me make sure I got that right.
Yeah, I never heard of that one, man. That's a good one right there. I got another one coming up.
Tavistock. Tavistock Institute. Okay?
Absolutely.
This is one of the biggest think tanks in the world, and they're old. People want to focus on Illuminati. They want to focus on Masonry, and that's fine. Masonry exists longer than Illuminati. Illuminati took over Freemasonry. Yes. All right? But the Tavistock Institute, you're missing this point.
I'm
right?
definitely going to look into that, and we're definitely going to do another podcast.
I can send you some material on it.
Absolutely.
But they've been a long time shifting the world. The Brookings Institute, the Tavistock Institute, and they lay out plans for demoralization. It's not just from Marxism. It's not just from this or that. This is an important thing that most people don't talk about. Okay?
Yeah.
And also what I said earlier about the Frankfurt School.
Yes.
Frankfurt School. I can say material on that too. But anyway, this is why a lot of this stuff is not, and it's not just this thing. We went back to Alastair Crowley, right? Yes, and we influenced on this world. And so here we are.
Here we are. Here's the result.
Yeah. And it takes 20 years for a population to change for the culture to change.
It takes a couple generations, I believe it.
And they started this way back in the
60s, I think.
Full force around the 60s. So it's already past 20 years. But America is a different thing, a different animal than other countries they've toppled. So that's why it's taking so long. So we have to keep fighting back, especially on the pornography.
Absolutely.
Itself, but we need to get back to God's standard. People need to call out to Jesus and get saved, and the church needs to influence the culture the way it's supposed to. That's one of the biggest issues right now is the church has been watered down and infiltrated so much that people are calling and saying, why can't I find a good church?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Chris, for coming on. And it was a great podcast. We'd have to do another one. We're definitely going to do another one. Definitely should do another one, I think, second half on this and, whatever else comes. Really quick, we have 2 minutes left. Go ahead and plug us in real quick with one more time with all your, your social medias, all that good stuff.
All right. Again, you can find me don'tletthemburn.com. You can find me on Facebook. Find my Telegram channel and join us there. We're all over the place. We're on YouTube. We're on Spreaker, iTunes. We're everywhere that has a voice. We're on Rumble. We're on BitChute. So, hey.
That's my guy right there. Everything.